Here's the thing that I think plagues us all. We have DNA inside of our bodies that have told us that selling ourselves is inappropriate or exploitive. But women start to go, oh, I don't have to be shackled by feeling like me asking for what I'm worth is weird.
Welcome to Women We Should Know with international speaker, mindset reset mentor, author, and your host, Leslie Michaels. With audacious honesty and candor, the Women We Should Know podcast presents the wisdom and life-empowering insights of women who are the embodiments of innovation and social evolution. Please join Leslie as she shares potent conversations that will inspire your personal and professional evolutions. Welcome back to Women We Should Know, the podcast where we consistently bring you the voices, the projects, the initiatives of women who are out there coloring outside of the lines, challenging the status quo by not getting inside of boxes that were developed by others. And as they are doing this, they are carving new pathways for other women to be able to come along behind them with a little more ease. So today we have just such a woman with you. Erin Loman Jeck is CEO of Transformational Speakers Agency, executive speaking coach, and TEDx speaking coach. She is a highly sought after business coach and transitioned to open her own speaking agency. Erin is the leading authority on assisting thriving, purpose-driven entrepreneurs in how to monetize their message. Now, we love knowing about that, don't we, women? She's going to talk about how to monetize our message and, even more importantly, probably make an impact, influence change, and inspire actions in others. So you see why I invited her to come and speak to all of you. She's our kind of woman. Erin's approach to speaking is unique and powerful. She utilizes the psychology of connection to illustrate how you can unlock any audience's trust and rapport, which leaves them feeling better about themselves and are challenged to adopt your new idea or perspective that you've just shared. Leaders seek Erin out to learn how to be more powerful in their influence, especially in the C-suite of organizations. So without further ado, hi, Erin. Thanks for being with us today.
I am so honored to be here, helping more women rise to the occasion. Let's go, girl.
Let's go. Let's go. That's what we're all about here. I have a fun little thing that I like to do at the beginning of every episode. What is one thing that is not in your bio that you are willing to share with our listeners?
I went to school to be a dolphin trainer.
You were supposed to be?
I was a dolphin trainer, and that was my dream job since I was like 3 years old.
Oh,
and then I realized it only pays $8.50 an hour. When you live in the Florida Keys, it's really hard to live on that.
Well, I don't know any place where it isn't hard to live on that.
For sure.
Live on $8.50 an hour. That is amazing, though. That is amazing. And what a wonderful adventure you had in your younger life. That's what younger life is for, is those adventures. But moving forward, you are doing some dynamic things now. I would love to hear you speak to exactly how you are impacting the lives of women.
Yeah, this has been such a journey for me. I think there's a lot of us that still have some old wounds, I would say, some scar tissue from other women growing up. And I think especially in our teenage and 20s, that was definitely a time where there was a lot of scarring. And so when I kept having this call to helping more women step up in leadership, helping women get on bigger stages and share their message, really changing the world, I was a little nervous, to be honest.
Sure.
And so I was like, well, I'll try this out, but here's where the doors really opened. It was inside of corporate. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and that's great. And it's a lot of fun. I get to have a big mix of that with helping people on TEDx talks. So you get all different backgrounds. But really, I've been like a CIA agent, like going into places like Boeing, Microsoft, Amazon, Expedia, male dominated rooms,
Right.
and grabbing the women and doing feminine executive communication coaching. And the first thing we do is we heal the wounded sisterhood.
Wonderful.
We can't get rid of that and we can't move forward if we don't.
I'm sure you are aware. Forbes, Harvard Business Review, Psychology Today, the topic for a while now has been the escalating level of woman-to-woman incivility in the corporate world, particularly at senior level. Now, you're going to go in and you're going to gather them all up to heal the sisterhood, which I am all for, as you know. How do you personally, we all have our techniques, how do you personally deal with those women who say, I'm not interested, and if I could go the rest of my life without ever having to work with another woman, I would?
I say, I hear you, sister. I used to be you. I always like to I tell the story of going to women's leadership.
Yep.
A whole bunch of women on a bus. We're driving 2 hours to this ranch. And one of the gals gets up at the front with the microphone and says, oh my gosh, let's all introduce ourselves. And I was like, get me off this bus. I am not for the cheerleader. I am like, whoa, well, this is supposed to be deep work we're going to. And this is how we started. If this is going to be 10 days, OMG, what am I going to do? Right?
You are not the kumbaya girl.
I'm not. But at the same time, there is a place where I know it's safe to be around women. I did that work to let that go. And when we finally start to realize, it's usually comes from those wounds that have not scarred over yet. And those are the women that are coming off maybe more prickly, just really closed down, not sharing, not open door, and I think that a lot of times when you give women the opportunity to really share. So one of the very first things we do in my workshop is we write down what we're afraid everyone will say or think about us when we step up and share our message, even maybe share our opinion on something, give our advice. Any step that you go to use your voice, what is it you're afraid that the other people will say? So they write it down. Mine is, who do you think you are? And when we write it down, we hold it up against our chest and we literally go to every single woman chest to chest, look down at theirs, look them in the face and acknowledge, and then they look at yours, and it disempowers, right? It's disempowering for the word anymore to really mean anything, because we've been hiding it instead of just saying it. And what you see is maybe this woman and this woman have the same exact one, and they have been at odds the entire time they've worked together. All of a sudden, the walls come down, and literally there's space for us all to realize that if we keep fighting each other, we're never going to get to the top.
Exactly. And we're never going to live up to our potential in terms of being the next great leaders of this world.
Right.
Even the Dalai Lama has called us out.
He declared it for us. Having a powerful man be an ally that does say that this is what's going to happen. World, look out. Be ready. It really truly is. And it's time for us women, if we'd stop looking side to side and comparing each other to ourselves and to knocking each other down, we actually could go farther faster.
We could. And I say, particularly if women could set down the fear that there is limited real estate, because the fear of limited real estate is what creates limited real estate.
And it used to be that way, and we get it, like eons of time of that. So now it's a new way of looking at it. And I think it's taking off those old glasses and putting on the new glasses of like, what could we create if that no longer was our reality?
Yes. And that's a wonderful place to go with women. what could we create? Let's just pretend it isn't a reality. Let's just pretend for a minute. What could we create? How do you help women to begin to take themselves seriously? And this is a big question I love to ask women like you. I've told this story before on this podcast of having a conversation with my good friend who is one of the top executive recruiters in New York City. She cannot beg enough to get women over 40 to ask for a salary equal to their value, even when she tells them this company is highly motivated to balance the male-female quotient in the senior suite. They still won't do it. How do you help women overcome that and realize they have the right? In fact, they have the responsibility to themselves and other women.
Here's the thing that I think plagues us all. We have DNA inside of our bodies that have told us that selling ourselves is inappropriate or exploitive, right? It's not. So this place inside of us, there's this piece that still feels icky. When I teach women how to sell, when I teach women how to ask for, I've really coached a lot of women to go ask for more and to watch the confidence that they gain inside of that process, whether it's taken, whether it's, negotiated, whether all of that stuff, to just watch what women start to go, oh, I don't have to be shackled by feeling like me asking for what I'm worth is disgusting or weird or whatever, right? It has been this thing. And so I feel like if women could finally just understand, all you're doing is declaring that you are valuable. And think about this. I mean, most of us are moms, wives, business owners, or, career women. We balance so many things.
Oh,
right? Like, how many hats do we have to wear in a day?
Women are the definition of resilience.
We're so resourceful that if our kids couldn't eat, we would be out there figuring out a way. We would do something. We'd be selling cans or selling, whatever. Like, look around your house. What could you get rid of if you needed to feed your kids? Like, right. Men don't think that way. No. And I think the one place that it is missing in the boardroom is that women, so men will look around and make a decision based on, okay, where's the bottom line for the people in the room? Where's the bottom line for the, for the company, that kind of thing, right? Like, how does this affect me and the men in this room? Women come to the boardroom and we go, okay, great, guys, that's one thing. But how does it affect the rest of the employees? How does it affect their families? How does it affect the community? And how does it affect the world? We need both of those perspectives in order to change and innovate in this world.
Absolutely. And well, it just has to happen. And again, quoting some of my favorite sources, Forbes, Harvard Business Review, Entrepreneur Magazine, companies that have one more woman, not one woman, one more woman in the C-suite are showing an average of 15% gains over companies who have only one woman or no women. So
it's in the numbers. It says that this is where we need to be. And I think, like you were saying about having that single focus, thinking that we're all competing for this, one spot or this one real estate. One of my high level executives from Microsoft, I love what she said, because she's a global channel chief. Like, she literally would say, she sits down when it's time for meetings and she takes up space. She brings her notebook and her tablet and her stuff, and she literally spreads at the table, because that's what the guys are doing. So she's like, well, I'm going to create this. And what her secret is if another woman walks in, she makes her section smaller and saves a seat. There's a seat to pull up for the woman instead of having her sit in the back of the room. And that to me means the world. And I just wish more of us would think like that. Like, okay, yeah, we might have to play like the boys sometimes, but then how is it that we can secret squirrel, like get some ways in there that are actually saving room for that and advocating? One of the biggest questions I get in my workshops in corporate is really, how do I, if somebody takes my idea, here's
Sure.
what happens a lot. Women and men speak differently. We have a higher voice, so we're up in our head voice and maybe in the middle voice, but we never use our chest voice. Our chest voice is actually where men hear us. They tone out the middle and the head voice, but if you can come down here, they hear us. But what ends up happening is I might share an idea. I think we should do this. And it goes around, and then Bob goes, hey, I think we should do this. And it's the same exact idea. And instead of saying, thanks, Bob, for elaborating on my idea and expanding it, or if you're saying it to help another sister, that was Jan's idea. Way to go, Bob. Way to expand on her idea. Anyone else got things to add to that? Because that was a really great point she made. You're now reminding them, oh, yeah, that was her idea. Oh, why didn't we listen? Yes. Starting that to put the seed, like, why didn't we hear that and take it for the first time? It needed a man with a chest voice so the other dudes in the room could actually hear it and go, oh, that has some bones to it. That has some weight to it. Let's go with that.
Absolutely. And another thing that accomplishes is not only does the woman get called out for her excellence, but it establishes a pattern that the old patriarchal system is not going to fly any longer in that room. And the more rooms in which it is not allowed to fly, the better off we all are.
Oh, my favorite, this is not business. This is, I play in an all-men's softball league. I'm the only woman that is on the team. I'm the only woman that's ever asked. They didn't have a co-ed league and they didn't have a women's league. And so when I asked, is there any co-ed leagues? Well, we'd be happy to have you. And I play like a boy. I show up and I play as hard as they do. And I don't quit. And I even pitch against men, which is a scary place. But I am confident. Now, my favorite one is when the director of this league, was yelling at one of my players. I'm on the pitching mound. He's about ready to get up to bat. And he goes, hey, Adam, don't run like a girl. Ooh-wee. I turned around and I said, it's really interesting. I'd wonder, what do you say to your girls, because he has 2 daughters, about running like a girl? What does that mean? And all of the men started clapping and cheering. And I was, at first I just said it because I was so frustrated. At the same time, I was like, oh my gosh, read the room, Erin. You're in their land and their territory, but I didn't matter. And from then on, it never happened again. No one ever did that. And I was like, I run like a girl and I beat you out when you tried to throw me out at first base, right?
Yes.
We stop that allowingness when we take a stand and say, no, not on my watch, not today.
Right. I actually don't read the room in situations like that. If it needs to be said, I don't stop and consider, am I in a men's room or a woman's room? And I encourage women to do that all the time. And I applaud you for that. I absolutely applaud you for that. Because when we stop playing nice in men's rooms and start being ourselves, we're all going to get more power.
Yeah, and I think there's a fear, though, the fear that, because the second thing that happened with the same man is, I think even a season later, we're playing and I made a call and the other team agreed with it. So we were, but it was kind of controversial call that I made, but I'm at the pitcher mound. I can see home plate the best. And I stood for it. And I was like, I could see it. I'm clear as day. Do you think I'm an idiot? I've been playing softball since I was 8 years old. Right. And he literally chased me into my dugout. And I was getting heated. And here's what happened for me. Inside of me, he's standing at the fence and he's screaming, do you understand that? I have no idea, because he was just screaming at me.
Sure.
And in that moment, and I have all this emotion, and I'm like, get up right in that thing. I'm like, really? You want to come at me in my face? All of a sudden, I think about it. My kids are sitting over there. Wives are sitting over there, and all of these men. And I thought, oh, I don't want to be seen as an emotional woman.
Oh, that old Harvey. Oh, that
right?
Old. Right.
So it stopped. It made me go, pay attention. He's still screaming, not caring what anybody else thinks about him being emotional about one call. But it was something that came in me. And then I went back to the fence and I'm like, if you really want me to walk around this fence, I will get in your face. I'm not afraid of you, but I can't see that you would want this to be shown to your children, that you're yelling in a woman's face. And my guys and my team stood in front of me and was like, no, you don't get to come in her face. And I was like, all right, like it really, they had my back. Right. But it was that piece, that tiny little thing inside of all of us women that go, oh, you don't want to look like the irrational woman, the woman that's acting out of feelings, that's doing something. But how funny is it? He never thought that out. He never had that even awareness.
I forget which woman it was. I'm sorry that I do. I'll have to Google it later, because it was one of our great female leaders who backed into a corner by a reporter one day, said, you know, the greatest marketing strategy that has ever been launched. And this reporter, I guess, was being rather emotional. It's the idea that men are rational and women are emotional. It's a great marketing strategy because women have suppressed themselves forever to not be how you are acting now. And I loved that. I love that. So moving on, thanks for sharing that vulnerable moment.
Yeah.
It's important that we get to share, or that strong women like yourself, like I do, come out and share those moments when that internalized misogyny jumps up and gets our own attention. Speaking of internalized misogyny, I'd love for you to speak to the gender differences in communication, because that's what we're talking about right here.
Yeah. So the thing that we talked about kind of in the beginning is, so we're all, as kids, we have the same pitch. We all have the same level, right? And then boys hit puberty and they drop down into their lower register. Yes. Now, one of the things, and I told you they tune us out, and it's not on purpose, ladies, like don't get a bat and start getting up angry about it. What happens is their moms nag them, their siblings, their sisters nag them, their girlfriends, the annoying girls at school. Oh my God, can you believe this? They're like, the boys are like, oh my God, I don't.
Oh, you do that so well.
Because I mock it all the time. But it's really, truly, they just have tuned it out because of all of that. The teachers, think about all the women in their lives, they've just tuned out that higher register. And so, like I said, if you go down into your chest voice, you speak from here, men actually hear you because you resonate. Your sound waves sound more like their resonance. Now, the reason they, sometimes they're the boys club, right? They pick other men, they pick other men's ideas because they hear it different. Again, I don't think anyone was missing out on Sally's idea or whatever when she said it. They just didn't hear it because they've tuned out that higher register. So first and foremost, that's one. B, women think in networks and connections and are always trying to build the connections and figure that out. Men are very compartmentalized. They open the box. They're like, okay, I only talk about what's in this box, nothing else. Put the lid on this box. But if somebody opens up another box, they're like, whoa, hold on. I got to close this box out first before I can go over here and open this box. And I think the thing that happens is women, we can see all the connections and all the opportunities. And it takes men a little bit longer to go, okay, I can see that opportunity. Close up the box. What about this opportunity? Oh, yeah, that works too. Okay, I like that. Oh, but what about this? Oh, hold on, let me close this box. And so if we can slow down and give them step by step and really show them those in the broken down segments, men can hear you even more. And it really also is about owning the ground you walk on. Men walk into a room, take up space. They own the ground they walk on. And if you look at the biggest predators on the planet are humans. But some of us walk around all like this and small and trying to hide and be invisible and fit in. But when a woman, like when I walk into a room, men go, who the heck is that? Because I'm owning the ground I walk on like a predator. I walk in like a big old cat. I am literally pushing my energy into the ground. I'm standing tall. I'm pushing out this energy that they're like, wow, she's unapologetically herself. And I am the same person here on this call with my children, with my husband on stages. I am always unapologetically me. And I will tell you, you want to get a man's attention, be unapologetic about who you are, and they can't look away. I don't care if you're 600 pounds or 5 pounds, if you're blonde hair or brown hair or whatever, it doesn't matter. They're not used to seeing women walk into a room and taking up space. And that
That's
is
exactly right.
what drives their attention. Like, whoa, she's someone to be, yeah, man, she needs to be like, I gotta pay attention to her. Who is she?
Exactly.
Because I own the ground I walk on. So stop playing small, stop trying to like hide yourself or, fiddle with your stuff, or be unapologetically you. And I know that's sometimes hard because you're 5 years old. Like I have a 6-year-old, right? She is all out herself all the time, whether that's like, oh my gosh, I didn't get a cookie and I'm going to have a huge fit about it. Or when she's like, oh, here's my demeanor. She is literally feeling everything she is and just owning it. And when she goes to school, they tell her, hands to yourself, don't talk, don't raise your hand, don't stand out, don't. And so all of a sudden we all try to be small to fit into what, like you said, the boxes that
That's
other
right.
people have created. And our teachers don't do this on purpose. They're just trying to keep kids from like smacking each other and, those kinds of things. But I think if we could just go back to really just being ourselves, the world opens up for us.
Absolutely. And I really love I'm such a word person, own the ground you walk on. That is such a memorable way for you to put that forward, Erin. I'm going to be remembering that.
Good. And now you do it.
I do.
Do it.
But I'm going to be sharing it forward and saying, and I learned this from Erin, Loman, Jeck, because that's a great way to frame it in a way that can be understood.
Yeah.
And it is really clear.
Yeah. And it's, because our body language is 50% of what the room is taking in.
Absolutely.
So if you're doing these weird things or, feeling small or trying to hide, any of those things, people feel it and go, oh yeah, she's insecure. And we think we're not doing those things. And you'd be surprised to watch how many videos I'm like, do you see all these things, how it makes you look this? And they're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know I do that. And I said, I get it, because the fight or flight chemicals are going.
That's right.
All of this stuff's going to come out in your body language. So really being able to encapsulate that in your body language is the most important thing.
Body language is fascinating study. And that's where our power is either represented or hidden.
Yeah.
So, stored away, not allowed to be seen. And speaking of psychology, because body language is just one of the forms, what exactly are you referencing in the psychology of connection?
Yeah. So if you think about this, movies, books, songs are all stories. And they're not from the stories like I, me, I woke up, this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. Nobody can connect to that. And what's happening for an audience, and I don't care if this is an audience of one or thousands, right? When you're having a communication with someone, their brain is looking for ways you connect. So they're like this open net, like, okay, throw something at me that you got. Like if somebody was listening to this goes, wow, she was a dolphin trainer. That's cool. I always wanted to be that. Immediately you're like, I'm connected to her.
That's right.
So our brain is always looking for that connection. When we tell our story, and I'll actually use a pretty personal story. This is when it changed for me, was I suffered a miscarriage between my children. And we were at this event where we were doing this flash mob dance for this big conference, women's conference. And I was crying through some of the choreography and the dancing and stuff. And I just asked everyone, I said, if I'm crying, it's okay. I am in postpartum right now. I just had lost a baby. I'm still going through a lot of things and I'm still having a lot of feelings. And this song keeps bringing those things up. And I said, but I'm okay. And I said, there's all these emotions going on. I have postpartum depression. I have all this stuff. And I'm mourning, right? So a woman walked up to me and she said, I've never told anyone before, but I had postpartum depression and I almost killed myself. And I didn't think that anyone else understood what I was going through. And this is the first time I've ever shared it with anyone. So when you tell your story, you give permission to others to share theirs. But that Me Too moment, and I'm not just talking about the Me Too exercise or the movement. I'm really talking about when you're telling a story and you're like, yeah, been there, me too.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking for. And so when you tell your story, there's three most important things to get any audience, does not matter who's in the audience, not age, gender, backgrounds, culture, religions, you name it, nothing but human connection. And that is, what was I thinking? I was thinking I wasn't going to get through it. I was feeling so tight in my chest, and I had that lump in my throat that I was afraid that I couldn't get to speak. And I was experiencing the tears running down my face and tasting the salt from my tears. Now, even if you've never suffered a miscarriage, you might have had any of those three things. So don't tell the story just for the circumstance itself. Tell the story so that you can show people. You know, I always say, like, my very first speaking engagement, standing room only. I was 10 years old. And I was super scared, and my hands were shaking, tears running down my face, all of that. And then I say, today is my daddy's funeral. And if no one's ever experienced telling their, having a eulogy or speaking your dad's funeral, no, you wouldn't understand. You're like, I haven't lost a
There's
parent.
not a connectivity point.
Right. But if I tell you I was shaking, the paper was shaking, and I didn't know if I could get my words out, and my chest was just aching. And, those kinds of things, everyone's like, oh, I have had that moment. And so all of a sudden, they go into their story. I remember this one time at school, and I was so scared. And when they're doing that, so here's the beautiful thing. When you tell your story, you release oxytocin. When the audience goes into their story, they release oxytocin. Now, we all know, ladies, oxytocin bonds mommies and babies. So if you want your audience high on their own supply of neurochemicals, you tell your story really well, that the whole audience is in their story, they will follow you to the top of the mountain.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And we know that there is not a business magazine out there that hasn't said that you're going to have an 80% or better success rate higher than those who do not tell stories. The storyteller wins. The storyteller takes the prize every time. And just from that little example, we know that you're really good at it. So speaking of storytellers, that's what the TED stage is all about. The TED stage is all about telling a story, and telling a story in a way that it truly impacts people. It's not just entertaining. How did you find yourself so deep up to your hips in the world of TED?
Yeah, it was really fun. For me, I had the dream of always speaking on the TED stage. And then my girlfriend she landed one. I hadn't even applied, but she landed one. And she asked them, do you guys have a speaking coach? And they're like, no, we're looking for one. And she's like, I got somebody for you. I walked in, and here's the secret. And this goes into what we talked about before about advocating for your own value. I walked in and I said, and I called a whole bunch of people who I knew were speaking coaches. They go, oh, it's for free. I volunteer my time to do it. And it's true. That's the whole organization run by volunteers. So I was like, but I don't do free. And if I'm going to do 17 speakers in 3 months, there's no way I can do free. And I have to be away from any of my other clients or outbound marketing. So this is going to cost them. So I came up in my head and was like, all right, $12,000. Right? I'm like, that'll totally work for me. So when I went in, they were like, well, how much is it? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, $12,000. I just clearly said it out, even though I didn't quite believe in it myself at the time. There was still a piece of me going, because everybody else does this for free. I don't think they're going to hire me. They're not going to pick me, but I'm going to still stand with that. And when I did, they took me serious. And so they procured a sponsor to be able to afford me. And I have never done a TEDx coaching, helping in any way for free ever again, because I know my value. And there are other organizers who are like, well, we don't pay our people. And I'm like, that's great. But if you want me to, I'll even procure my own sponsor to pay my fee, but I won't do it for free.
Mhm.
And I watched where one organizer said she couldn't afford it. Three of her speakers hired me separately. They
Mhm.
found out about me and hired me separately. Those three speakers had the only 3 standing ovations of the entire day. The Senator Mona Das of Washington State came up to my client and says, I want you to come say that story and share that message at the town hall for all of the city of Seattle. So there's something to be said about owning your worth and declaring that, and the opportunities will open. And for me, I always feel it's kind of my Shark Tank moment, because I love to be able to, like, I've worked on eradicating single-use plastics, eradicating sex trafficking, talking about harvesting solar power from the moon. I have one right now on perinatal mood disorders, which is postpartum, but there's 9 levels. I didn't even know that. Like, I'm helping people change the world, and I get to play a little bit in there and have a little bit of a ripple effect with those topics that I may never talk on ever again in my life. Right. So it's really, really fun to be able to play in all these areas and know the ripple effect that it's going to make in changing lives around the world. And that's what makes me excited about it.
Oh, that's brilliant. And it is a way, if someone has a really powerful message that is driving them, that is a passion, that feels rather like a purpose for them being on the planet, there's not a better stage than TED.
Yep. It's a global platform.
It's a global platform. You are fascinating. I could speak with you on and on and on, but we're coming up on my time and they're going to be shutting me down. What I'd love to ask you here in our closing time is, what have I not asked you that you would like to speak to?
You know, I always talk about my future self, and this is something that we all can use. So when I don't have the confidence, when I'm feeling like I might waver in my asking, or I declare, there was 3 men on a stage for World's Greatest Speaking Training, and I said, you need to save a seat for me. Why is there not a woman in here? There's more women in the audience than men. And you need a woman to teach a woman how to speak on stage, because we're not going to do it the masculine way. It was very scary to go up to Bo Eason and declare that, and to declare that to Roger Love, and then for them to take it to Brendan Burchard. And I don't know if I would have done it. I literally harnessed my future self. My ELJ is my future self. She has a $40 million company, sat under the trees with Oprah, New York Times bestselling author. She's done all of the things. So when I waver in confidence, when I think I'm going to shake when I ask for something, or get to that, I actually harness and use her. I embody her, because she would totally walk up there and be like, what are you guys doing? Like, this isn't okay.
Exactly.
And that's what I did. So I used her confidence. So borrow confidence from your future self when you struggle to have it with yourself on the daily basis, because every day we can step into more of our future self. We will become it every single day.
Absolutely brilliant. I love that. I love that. That's right along the lines of, they teach surgeons to stand in their superhero pose before they go into a surgery, and they have more successful surgeries. So women, write that down along with all the other nuggets that you'll have been receiving today. And I'm going to do for you what I always do. You know, I love doing this for you. Every one of Erin's contact links that she's willing to provide, all of her social media, booklet, anything she wants to provide, I'm going to put it up there on her program notes, and you're going to be able to get into there and check her out more fully and really dive into it. So if you're reading right now, or driving right now, or jogging right now, just keep on going. I'll have those there waiting for you. And when you do that, be sure and like and share and subscribe. Now, the reason I always ask you to share is you're going to hear something when you replay this. Maybe you already heard it. And it's going to call to mind some woman who's already in your circle. So be her hero today. Share this episode forward with her. Might be just the day that she's ready to listen and hear. So, Erin, thank you so much for everything that you shared. All of your information will be on the program notes, and I'm sure some of these women will be reaching out to you.
Thank you. And ladies, your message matters. There are women crying out for the answers that you have. So stop hiding and start sharing.
Thank you for that. And thank you, all of you, for coming back to another episode of Women We Should Know. I appreciate each of you so very much. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your input. I even appreciate your corrective input. And in this way, we are building a more global community of women who are uplifting women. So thank you for participating, tripping on my words today. That's okay. Participating with us. As you go forward, you remember those special nuggets that you got from Erin today. Keep them close in your pocket so you don't lose track of them. And as you go forward, I just want to remind you, you are stronger and wiser than you know.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We hope you received inspiration for expanding your own social innovation and influence. Help us inspire others by sharing this episode and leaving your comments over at lesliemichaels.com/podcast. For more tips, insights, and support in creating a fully audacious, professional, and personal lifestyle you love, visit our Women We Should Know community on Facebook.